Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this year's Downtown Community Services Resource Fair. My name is Brent Geidinger. I'm the Development Manager for Boyle Street Community Services, one of over 50 organizations represented here today. For those who haven't been to this event before, this is really an opportunity for you to learn about some of the amazing organizations and programs and resources that serve to help serve and support some of our city's most vulnerable individuals. One thing different about this year's fair are the presentations that we have to offer throughout the day here in the Heritage Room. I've been lucky enough in my 5 years at Boyle Street to work with most of the people presenting today, and I can tell you that you will learn an absolute ton from the impact these individuals are making across our city and for those that they serve. So without any further ado, first on the schedule this morning, I'd like to introduce Doug Cook and Melissa Faithful. They are both members of Boyle Street's Street Outreach team. This team works on the front lines all over the city, connecting with individuals experiencing homelessness and living rough outside. The team works on building trusting relationships and connects people to resources that can offer more stability in their lives. So please welcome Doug, Melissa, and Aiden.
Hello everyone. I'm just going to give a little bit of a brief introduction on the program, where it's come, and then I'll hand it over to Doug and Melissa and let them tell you about the work that they're a part of. So the program is the Street Outreach program started well over 10 years ago in 2003. It was a partnership between Boyle Street and the Old Strathcona Business Association because there was a noticed need to help work in the community at an outreach level and go and connect with folks who were in need of services but weren't available in their area. Since then, the program's grown a great deal because there's more people outside all day who aren't connected to Boyle Street or Bissell Center or any of the downtown service providers. Hope Mission, they're not going to shelters, they're sleeping outside all year round. So in 2011, when Edmonton had the highest murder rate in the country, there was a need for more services to help try and engage with folks who were victims of the homicides that were taking place in our city. So one of the parts of the violence reduction strategy was to increase outreach services. And so in 2011, the team went to six people on the ground to cover the entire city, which as our city continues to grow becomes more and more of an issue, and the team works really hard to do that. So just quickly, if you can see, last year the team had contact with 756 unique individuals. So that's people that they could put a name to and get to know and do work with. But they also had contact with roughly 2,000 folks who they maybe didn't get a name from. So maybe that's someone who was in a tent or sleeping under a blanket, or who they just had a quick engagement with and they didn't get any particulars with. This year, in the first 6 months, they've had contact with 968 unique individuals and just over 1,000 anonymous. So they're well on having way more contacts than they did last year, which I think shows there's an increasing demand for this service. But it also shows the amazing work that everyone on this team is doing in going out and connecting with folks who are often isolated and not receiving the supports that they deserve. And with that, I will pass it over to Doug and Melissa and allow them to tell you about the work that they do. Thank you.
I'm going to give you a little quick snapshot of a day in the life of a street outreach worker. Our day begins at 7 in the morning, sun, rain, or snow. And for the first 3 hours or so of our morning, we spend the day in the parks and the river valleys, checking on the camps that we know of and or responding to park rangers' requests to meet with campers. Often from calls from 211, public can phone in and report a camp, and rangers will first respond and determine if this is an active camp or not, meaning is someone living there. And if the campers are willing to have street outreach visit, we will send out a team to make contact. Now try to imagine two strangers walking into your home, waking you up, especially if you're living in the rough, in your home is a tent or a tarp covering a couple of pallets sort of deep in the bush of the river valley, you're probably going to feel feel some apprehension, maybe a little fearful. And as an outreach worker, we need to be aware of this and realize that the challenge of building a trusting relationship with the homeless individual. Now, you're going to hear the term relationship referred to a fair bit in this presentation. Building supportive relationships is essential with street outreach. Through the development of positive relationships, the goal is to help people access the services and supports that they require in order to help them move forward with their lives. Street outreach, at a minimum, offers a cheery good morning, Boyle Street outreach, wake-up call, and some basic essentials such as snacks, drinks, and a clean pair of socks. As well, first aid and harm reduction supplies such as needle exchange are often provided. When an understanding of an individual's circumstances and needs is established, often after weeks or months of visits, we can assist with accessing income resources, helping address medical issues, housing, and additional living and support services. This may mean providing transportation to and from appointments, advocating on behalf of our clients, or sometimes just enjoying a cup of coffee together. Afternoons for street outreach are no less busy. We find that most people have left their camps for the day, so we spend our time covering the streets and back alleys of Old Strathcona, Beverly, Boyle-McCauley, and many other areas of the city, again, meeting the people where they're at. Street outreach also strives to build positive working relationships with local business owners and community residents, listening to their concerns and ensuring all voices are accounted for. And we need to be familiar with and have access to a range of mainstream and community services to able to lead to a higher degree of interagency collaborations amongst the inner city as well as on the outskirts of the city. More recently, with the City of Edmonton and the Park Rangers, we've had a very good collaborative approach, allowing us to more opportunity to work with people and to get to know them, and with people those living in the rough and giving them time to get more onto a stable footing, so the city won't necessarily go through so quickly and say you've got to move. They'll give us some time to work with people and also get them on their stable footing, as I say. Melissa.
Thank you. I don't know how to do this. Don't leave me. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. Doug talked a lot about sleeping rough, and I just wanted to explain that that's a term we use for people who sleep outside all year round. For the majority, the population that we work with have slipped through the cracks. A lot of them are facing a lot of barriers, such as homelessness, no income, no ID, and lack of a stable family support. So the premise of street outreach is based on relationship building. Most of what we do is going into camps and getting to know the people that we're working with so that we can build a stable relationship with them and build trust. It's important to build a relationship in order to, sorry, I'm just a little bit nervous. Do you want to continue or no? Okay. So many of the people are facing a lot of barriers, which makes it really difficult for them to reach out systematically. So, sorry, I'm just really nervous. Doug, can you take over?
Don't know what you were reading.
No, why it's important for us to build relationships.
Yeah, building relationships, of course, is something that everyone needs to do, and it doesn't matter where you are in your life. Positive relationships are also, extremely important to feeling self-confident, having ideas of where you want to go in the future, and and then also knowing you can build and trust another person to help you along the way if you require it. You want to join in here?
Sure. I just wanted to talk about somebody that we met about 1.5 years ago. He was sleeping outside and he faces a number of barriers. The number one, he is alone, which makes him very vulnerable, and he has a physical disability, which is limiting his mobility. He also has no family supports, no income. He's basically starting from the ground up. So when we first interacted with him, he didn't really want anything to do with us, so it took a lot of getting to know him and just stopping in and dropping off supplies and just asking how his day was going. A lot of that, it took about like 6 months before he even really wanted to move along. Being street outreach, we connect people who are sleeping outside with resources and connections to help them be stable and move on in their life. So we connected this gentleman with HUOS, which is a team, the High Users of Service. They have a bunch of different people on their team that can help others move along. A lot of the things that we worked on was ID, income, and housing, as well as his high medical needs. So I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about the work that we do.
Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
You identify the high-risk youth services, and you're using an acronym for that?
No, the high users of service, heavy users of service, HUOS. Yes.
I'm just curious, when you meet someone who you've never met before, like, what does it look like when you're trying to build a relationship with them? Is that easy to do? I imagine that's difficult at some points.
It can be intimidating, working with people who are struggling and facing a lot of barriers in their life. A lot of people are vulnerable and they have a lot of defenses, so they have a lot of walls up, and it could take time sometimes to get to know them. So for us, a lot of it is just being present. So we go into their camps a lot and just say hi and offer them basic water, socks, and granola bars. And that's how we usually start off a relationship.
The physical disabilities, obviously, we're in housing support, so some of the support you're speaking about are particularly limited. So I'm curious to learn about physical disabilities and being able to use them to approach and securing housing supports and what that looks like now. Is that housing first, or is that a different approach supporting this individual with physical disabilities?
I think it's important to understand that everybody has different needs, and with this guy, we had to try more than one approach. So he's in a wheelchair, so he needed to be in a facility that accommodates that. And the first thing we tried was market housing, which was wheelchair accessible. However, with his high needs, with his health and stuff, we needed to move him somewhere else. And I think a lot, when you're working with people with needs like that, you have to make sure that the place that they're going to be is going to be able to accommodate them. And one of the things that we had to bring in was healthcare aid, so that they can help them daily with their cleaning and medication and stuff. Any more questions?
Maybe you guys can talk a bit about harm reduction, because that's what you guys practice.
Yes, harm reduction will obviously we'll carry needles and cookers, and we'll ask the question if they require any extra service like that or supplies, and we'll hand that over. I mean, there's no judgment in that, and I mean, the idea is obviously to give clean supplies so that they're not reusing needles and possibly passing on disease and all the rest to each other and back and forth, so.
And a lot with harm reduction, it's to ensure the safety of people in their communities. So it doesn't necessarily mean just handing out clean supplies. It's how can we keep you safe for the night? Do you need blankets, or do you need clean or dry clothes? So there's a lot of different ways that we incorporate harm reduction on the street outreach team. Is that everyone?
What does it look like going out in the winter?
Well, as we're starting to find out now, it's very dark at 7 in the morning, and so adds a bit of a challenge to the day. But of course, that's the most time, especially through the winter and the colder months when there's snow and ice. It's important that we check up on people, and especially if the temperature really quite drops, then we want to make sure that they're staying warm. If they require blankets, or maybe they need to have assistance to just move out to try to find someplace that they're a little bit more warmer at for a few nights, and at the back.
Do you worry about their safety? Dealing with so many different personalities and drugs
I mean, it's always in our mind, I suppose, when especially if we're heading into a camp that maybe we're not familiar with. You know, we always work in pairs, and so we've always had the support of each other. And you know, honestly, I can speak for myself, and I've never felt threatened or, you know, or afraid of anything. I mean, if a person's honest right off the bat and they said, I don't want any services, or they'll tell you to F off or something like that, you say, hey, well, have a great day. You know, we'll most likely be back another day, and here we'll just often leave a few supplies anyways. So, you know, there's kind of just bridging that gap, you know, and of course that could be just the first, you know, instinctual reaction on their part because they don't know who we are, you know, after the first meeting. So again, building the trust, building that relationship. And for certain people, it might take weeks and months, you know, or even years. Like we've had people where it's been a few years of working with them before they're finally to a point where they'll sort of feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, yes, you can help me with, you know, getting ID or, you know, finding a doctor or, you know, I want to get out of here, so I need to get onto some income assistance. So can you help me with that? So that's, you know, some days it's great, you know, you get a great hello back from somebody, but others it's just you know, a very sort of short little interaction, but doesn't mean we stop there. We keep coming back. So, yes, sir.
I was just wondering, are you seeing a raise in any of the youth going onto the streets? Young people in the camps that you go to, is there an increase to that, or is there a decrease?
You want to answer that?
Sure. I don't really know how to answer that because we get a wide range of people. It's basically just the same. We see the same number of people from all different age ranges out in the River Valley and on the street, so.
I think we seem to find that youth are a little bit more transient. They don't necessarily set up for any particular area for too long. Now, I mean, I can't give you a definite reason of why they're not staying in any one spot. Maybe they're just going in and out, they're couch surfing, going back and forth to their parents' place, maybe their family home, or, yeah, I haven't got a full sense of that, sorry. Janelle.
You and the creep chat. Do you guys have any direct resources or links to housing? Your team.
We do have a housing worker that works on our team. Thank you, Janelle, for bringing that up.
Homeward Trust, yeah.
But we do work very closely with Homeward Trust, and they've actually, we've got a very good collaboration going with them right now where they do come out with us fairly regularly, and which is great because we can take them right to the people. So the Homeward Trust people can see where these people are at and get a better sense of where they need to go. So yes, I think that's one of our most positive relationships for sure. Yes.
Do you utilize peer support in any way? Or can you speak to kind of how maybe different camps and people kind of help each other? Do you find that that's something you guys?
I don't really understand the question. Like, do you mean within Boyle Street, like as a team?
I mean, yeah, so street outreach, when you're going out to people in camps, are you finding ways for kind of community members who are sleeping rough to support each other? Are they able to offer you guys supports to help their own community?
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, a lot of the community the people that are sleeping outside, they basically build like families. So they already have like a network of support. And another way too that street outreach gets known is by word of mouth. So if we help somebody and it's a positive interaction, they're more likely to tell like 10 friends. And then they're like, well, we want help from street outreach. So they support each other as well.
Again, with our relationship with the park rangers too, if they're going through and finding camps, one of the first things now is that they'll let us know where these camps are. And so that, again, we can go in, make contact, find out what the needs are, and, you know, start following the steps that, you know, as much as the camper wants, as the homeless person wants, that, you know, we're not going to push things on them. We're going to go at their pace. So, yeah, tomorrow.
Can you talk about some of the reasons that someone might like
mainstream services or, you know, going to shelters and things like that?
Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, some of the reasons for not utilizing shelters, you know, some of the shelters are very overcrowded, and people just don't feel safe. If they've got partners or even pets, those, you know, you can't often stay together when you're in a shelter, so it's the safety aspect of staying outside is sort of outweighs, I guess, the point of being inside where it's maybe dry anyways and warm. But, you know, of course, there's also addiction issues that, I mean, a lot of not necessarily being able to drink or, you know, sort of fill your addictions inside a shelter. It's easier to do that outside, so it's one of the reasons. You want to add to that?
Yeah. Another reason too is keeping their belongings, and there's nowhere really in a shelter to have your stuff. So a lot of people, they have a lot of personal belongings that they want to keep with them, so they choose to be outside.
I imagine one of the challenges of the work you do is interacting with people who aren't as sympathetic to those who might be experiencing homelessness. I know there's been some news stories lately coming from that sort of area. How do you work with or deal with someone or a group who don't really see the value in helping those who are experiencing homelessness or don't understand maybe the complexities of it? How do you educate those who might not share that point of view?
A lot of what Street Outreach does, the relationship building part, is not only with community members, we also network with people in the community. So the general public, business owners, and a lot of the time, like if we get a call from a business owner saying that they basically want to move people along, we'll get called in to go chat with them. So we usually take that opportunity to educate them and talk with them and kind of come up with a plan, like what can we both do here to help the community.
If I know of a camp, how would I connect them to Street Outreach?
You want to answer that?
You could certainly phone 211 and the city would connect you with us, or especially as well could be the crisis diversion team, which is vans that run out throughout the city that will assist people almost on the spot. So, yeah. I'm guessing that's it. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Doug and Melissa and Aiden. That was a fabulous presentation. Wow, awesome work you guys do. I know there's a lot of questions. There might be a few more. If you want to connect with Street Outreach any further throughout the day, some of the members of the team are here. You can see their T-shirts. Boyle Street also has a booth in the main exhibit area, and there are some resources there as well. So that's perfect. Next up, we do have Bissell Center's Housing Outreach team. We're a few minutes early, so we'll just give it a few minutes until maybe a few other people are looking to come grab a seat for that, and then we'll get back up and rolling for the second one. Thanks, everyone.